As you can already tell from the title of the video, this review will only be for Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. I've decided not to review the entire HD collection, since that would take me to the end of next year. Anyway, I'm pretty sure everyone knows the story of Jak and Daxter by this point, so I won't bother reiterating. You're here because you want to know if it's worth getting on the PlayStation Vita, right? Right. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. Where do I even begin? I had so many mixed emotions while playing this game. At first I hated it, then I loved it, then I went back to hating it. By the end, I didn't know what to think. I know this game has a legion of fans, so any kind of criticism or negativity will result in me being exiled. As with all my other reviews, I will try my best to give it an honest score. Here's my review of Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy for the PlayStation Vita. It's obvious the game doesn't look as good as the PS3 collection, or the PS2 original for that matter. You'll notice a few jaggies when the camera pulls in close on certain objects, but overall, color and detail look great. The environments are scattered with items to collect and enemies to encounter. Each location accompanied by cool looking backdrops ranging from tropical beaches to a steamy volcano. There's also a day and night cycle occurring throughout your adventure as well. Not only that, all levels within the game are interconnected, further adding to a more cohesive experience. All the characters display excellent personality and style to spare. So what's the problem here? Well, to be honest, it's the frame rate. And to be even more honest, it sucks. I've played plenty of shoddy ports of console games in the past, so I'm no stranger to games taking a hit when it's being brought to a different platform. But god damn! Upon completing the tutorial on Geyser Rock, I literally got sick. I mean, I had to put the game down for a few minutes because the frame rate was making me nauseous. There are people who are more susceptible to this kind of problem, so it might not affect you as much, but unfortunately for me, I got hit pretty hard at first. I've heard a lot of people say they've gotten used to the frame rate after a few hours, and luckily for me, I did so as well. But for a game with such a crippling frame rate, it took me a good 7 to 8 hours. It wasn't until I was halfway through the game did my eyes start to finally adjust. The biggest problem for me happened every time I rotated the camera. Doing this would send my stomach into orbit. No matter where you are or what you're doing, it's there. You can't escape it. The entire game runs like crap. I wouldn't necessarily go as far to say the frame rate ruins the entire game, but it definitely holds it back, and in some way undermines the excellent gameplay. At least the cutscenes look good though. Ugh, the controls. My other nemesis. They're so imprecise and finicky. Mostly the jump button. With a game that involves so much platforming, you'd think this would be the part they got right. Timing is key, and usually it works. I've noticed, especially during my playtime, in order to land a double jump, you gotta hit the second jump at the very peak of the first jump. Don't just double tap jump as quickly as possible. It doesn't work that way in this game. And with a dodgy frame rate, timing is even more crucial. There's also some poor hit detection on some of the objects. Why is it so difficult to collect the blue eco? Sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to pick it up, but for some reason just run right past it. The sluggish controls don't allow you to react to what's about to happen, but instead require prior knowledge to be ready for what's ahead. This is why I think veterans of this game are more likely to excuse the poor controls, because they have an idea of how the game should already be played. Those new to the franchise are the ones most likely to be frustrated. I spent a good half of the game trying to make the same jump over and over and over again. Surprisingly, the one thing I did like about the controls was the touchscreen functionality. It actually made some of the minigames easier in my opinion. Like fishing, for example. I don't think there was any chance in hell I'd be able to do that with a thumbstick. The music isn't anything special, but it fits the level and doesn't get annoying. It's mostly background music, but it works. Audio effects, on the other hand, are a mess. Occasional glitches arise here and there. and sometimes the audio sounds like it's about to blow through your speakers. I do have to give credit to the voice actors. They're funny, well-spoken, and help lend great personality to each character. By far the one area of the game I have the least complaints with. In terms of gameplay and mechanic, the game has aged gracefully. It's your basic action-adventure title with a heavy emphasis on platforming. There's also a few collectibles thrown in there for good measure. It's nothing major. It's not like any of those other games from the past where you had to collect like a million different items. Remember Donkey Kong 64? But collecting objects should be the least of your worries if you're planning to pick this up. The game is laid out in an overworld fashion. Each area you discover eventually leads into the next. I really like that. Makes the whole game feel like one giant adventure from start to finish. Object of the game is basically to collect as many power cells as you can. Either by collecting and trading precursor orbs, finding scout flies, or doing various tasks for many of the other characters in the game. Simple game design that works and is still enjoyable to this day, with the exception of the hover bike sequence, where you have to jump from one platform to the next. Yeah, I was not a huge fan of that part. Other than that, the game is well designed, a testament that gameplay prevails above all else. The problem is, how do you enjoy a game when it's barely playable? Upon starting your adventure, the first kick in the face will be the frame rate. It is just god-awful. Fortunately, this can be overcome with many hours of gameplay. But then there's another problem, and in a way, it goes hand in hand with the frame rate. In my opinion, the hardest part about the game is getting accustomed to the controls. They have such a steep learning curve for controls that were meant to be so simple. It's weird. It's not even that they're unresponsive, but that they require a delicate touch. It's like having that car that only works because you're the only one who knows how to properly turn the key to start the engine. You ever have one of those instances in your life? You got like a device that you know works when you use it, but for some reason won't work when you hand it over to someone else? Yeah, that's what the controls feel like to me. Graphics aren't everything, and that's true. They're not. I can go back right now and play Super Mario on Nintendo and still have a good time. You know why? Because I can actually play it. This game is borderline broken. And yes, I played through the entire game. I even got the platinum just to make sure I didn't overlook anything. And to be frank, this is a bad port of an excellent game. Worst part about the frame rate is that for such a big game, it's difficult to figure out your bearings when the frame rate can barely keep up. It really helps if you know where you're going, or if you played the game previously before. Which is why I think I enjoyed my second playthrough so much more. There was no headache from figuring out where to go, or frustration from any of the numerous platforming sections. By that time, my eyes have adjusted, and my double jump technique was near perfection. But honestly, what average gamer has the time for that kind of BS? When we play a game, we want it to work the first time around. We don't want to put in 8 to 10 hours of frustration so we can keep from getting nauseous, or so that we can perform something as simple as a double jump. I don't want to paint this game in a bad light by recommending an inferior port. In doing so would be a huge disservice to my viewers. Not only do you guys deserve better, but this game deserves better. Stick with the excellent PlayStation 3 HD remaster, or even the original PlayStation 2 copy. It's the only way to do this game justice.